What's going on, guys? Uh, Glad to see all of you here. Just kidding. Um, anyway, it is Three Dads Talk Theme Parks, and Ron will hopefully be joining us shortly. I totally lost track of time tonight. Was working on some projects for my other business and trying to get some work done. And all of a sudden I looked up and it was 5 minutes to 9 and I had to scramble around and get ready. Ron had a great topic suggestion. I'm going to hang on for a couple of seconds and see if Ron does in fact come on. I'm also going to try to dim my light a little bit because I'm feeling a little bright this evening. But wanted to jump on. We are going to address some Disney stuff going on, some things happening in the world of Disney. And we're also probably going to talk a little bit more about Halloween stuff, both the Boo Bash and Halloween Horror Nights, Howl-O-Scream, and some of the other events going on. Tegan got to experience a local park here that was kind of cool. She got to go to Canopy Lake Park and really greatly enjoyed it. She didn't get to do as much as she wanted, but they do a decent job up here in New England, and she really kind of had fun. And I think it's called Scream Fest. She was telling me about. And I have not attended personally, but I thought it was pretty interesting to hear her talk about it from a 14-year-old's perspective. And it's more like a good place where all the teenagers can go safely, hang out together, and not find themselves getting into all kinds of trouble. Anyway. We will see if Ron makes it on, and no one else is here right now, so I am just kind of talking to myself and twiddling my thumbs. Do also want to kind of address some stuff coming up from a travel agent perspective. Had a lot of people reaching out to me over the last week asking me my thoughts on Genie Plus and whether I think it's necessary, whether I think it's worth it. And to be honest with you, Tegan and I were really pretty skilled at maxing out the FastPass system. And we used to really, we had days where we got as many as 30 FastPasses. Ron is joining now. Hold on. Let me bring Ron in and we will get everybody situated. Here comes Ron. There's Ron.
Hi.
Ron, can we hear you?
Yes, can you? Can you hear me?
Excellent. We can hear you. That is great news. So were you out at the disco tonight?
Maybe.
You're looking quite dapper this evening. I didn't know if you were out dancing, cutting a rug for a bit there.
Yeah, I actually, it was a very long, exciting day, but I debated whether to wear this or go shirtless. So, to all three of you out there listening and watching, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's actually just me and you right now. We got a real quiet night to start.
Awesome. How was your day?
Because once again, I've done such a great job with advertising for all of this, which I really do need to get on and start doing. But today was good. We had a very good day. Tegan told me about her adventures at, I think they call it Scream Fest, at a local amusement park up in New Hampshire that she got to experience 2 Sundays in a row. And this time she got to go with a couple friends and she didn't have to rush home to do homework. So she got to enjoy a little more time.
Oh,
but
that's great.
Basically they wound up doing the same house she had done last time and she wanted to do different ones, and her other friends hadn't done it yet, so she wound up basically repeating her same night. But she did enjoy herself, from what she was saying. So that was nice for her to be able to experience that and go through doing some stuff, which I think is really good.
Right. I find sometimes when things like that happen for me, if I'm with people and like, oh, I already did this, there have been occasions you could probably relate to this when it comes to referring to the parks and the resorts. Sometimes you wind up seeing things through their perspective. You experience things you might not have noticed, whether it's a haunted house. That's actually happened to me. That's happened to me at Halloween Horror Nights. It was really it was kind of fun. So maybe that happened for her.
Yeah, and I agree that sometimes it's a lot of fun to experience things again through someone else's eyes.
Yep.
And then I also think one of the other things that can sometimes be a little overwhelming at parks is if you have that group of 5 or 6 people and you haven't predetermined your itinerary beforehand. Everybody kind of wants to go do different stuff, but you want to stay together, and you wind
Yep.
up having that half-hour debate to figure out what you're going to do when you could have already been in line and through the ride at that point. I always try to have those debates in line. I
Yes.
always try to say, hey, can we go pick something and then have this conversation while we wait for that one? Like, flip a coin. I don't really care who wins, but standing in the hub having this conversation doesn't make a lot of sense right now.
Right. Right. It's better to have that conversation before 200 people pass by you to get to that queue.
Right. So it is kind of funny sometimes how that plays out. So I guess there's the good version and the a little bit of annoying version if you have the wrong group. That can be a little tough sometimes.
Well, I don't know about you. I think also a great thing that applies no matter whether you're talking about a theme park, a haunted house, a resort. If you run into those issues where it's like herding cats, then you be the executive to make the executive decision and say, you know what, see you for dinner, or meet you over here at this time, and then pew.
Yeah, Tegan and I have had times where we finally said, okay, guys, when you figure it out, you text us because we're going over and doing this and we're going to go get our stuff done. Because I don't live in Florida. So when I spend the money to be there, I want to be there doing stuff. It's not like I get the option of coming back tomorrow and doing stuff where some of my friends, and not even referencing you, but that some of my friends down there, have that opportunity to go every day. And they're like, well, I don't know what I feel like today. I'm like, well, you better figure it out because I only got 12 hours left. So,
yeah, honestly, for me, and I hope it's been made abundantly clear to you. Anytime I go to meet you or meet you and Tegan, my thing is always, I defer to you, whatever you want to do. I'm literally a feather in the wind. Wherever you're going,
yeah, but we've established, what you enjoy and what I enjoy. And we always try to make sure that when we're catching up with you, we're generally trying to do something that we can all kind of have fun. Like we've really had fun at Oga's. We've really had fun at Beaches and Cream. So we always try to make sure that, you're included with that stuff.
Have we done anything where you got the impression, gosh, Ron's not enjoying this?
No,
besides the whole puncher to the eyelid attraction, that was kind of rough, or the sand under the eyelid attraction, that one I don't have to do again, but I just wanted to make sure.
No, I think we're pretty good. I know you had sent me an email or a text earlier in the week about the topic for tonight and one of the things to discuss. And I think that is a great topic to discuss because today, an article even a little more scrutinizing, I guess, came out stating that some Imagineers are actually circulating that petition to to various media outlets trying to get attention drawn to the, direction that Disney is headed, and how some people clearly don't want to make that move. They have named, there are a few Imagineers that have now been named that
Right.
are not making the move and making the choice to leave the company over that. And that surprised me a little. I was a
Why?
little,
Why were you surprised by that?
I was just surprised that Disney wasn't a little more, especially with technology and the circumstances of the move, the way things have happened post COVID. And you would almost think that a remote option, or being able to work from your location and submit your work if you have to travel or whatever once in a while, but not necessarily making the move direct to the location, could be feasible, could be worked out, for especially for some of the higher level Imagineers that I feel maybe are deserving of that option when they've been forced to live where they are for so long with the job, and then they just kind of packed up and said, hey, taxes are better, land's cheaper, we can develop this whole place, and it will cost us millions of dollars, yet less in tax liability, and even production costs. Building everything has been forecasted to be significantly cheaper in Florida. So, the fact that they're moving, those of you that don't know, they're moving the Imagineer campus for the Disney company to, is it Lake Nona?
Lake Nona, yeah, from Burbank, yeah, where they've always been, where Walt actually established them. And it's interesting because the last time such a debate reached the media, I'm just trying to think of the best way to describe this, was actually when Iger took the helm, and they were really, the Imagineers were really concerned. Imagineering, morale was down. They didn't know if this was a guy that was going to come in and kind of slice away. And it turned out he was an ardent advocate and lover, and he would frequently show up and just walk around and see what they were doing and talk to them. And we've talked about this before, that in Disney's more than 1 century history as a company, this is the first time that someone at the helm doesn't come from a grassroots or developed entertainment background. That Bob Chapek is someone who is a by the numbers guy, and there's nothing wrong with that. The challenge is this is an entertainment company that has been allowed to flourish and bring the very best in entertainment to people of all ages everywhere, because it didn't have someone like Jack Welch at the helm. And that has many people very concerned, and I think perhaps rightly so.
I would agree. And I think one of the other things that concerns me a little bit with the direction Disney seems to be taking, and I spoke to a friend today who is similar to myself and Tegan, had been to Disney multiple times, usually multiple times a year. And it was kind of funny because he visited in March this past year.
Okay.
And after the trip, and he is a very strong opinion, we will say. Once he has made a decision about something, it is made. He is a very, and I think his girlfriend assists in that as well, because you got to keep the lady in your life happy, or your life will be miserable too. So the fact that they went and did had a less than magical experience. I he has been a Disney person for years, much like Tegan and I, as I said, and he just felt that the magic wasn't there right now, and the as he put it, the mask police and the things going on, and it just really took away from the experience for him. And I understand, and I even talked to him a little bit about it with the fact that a lot of it is COVID related. A lot of it, you feel bad for these 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that have been being told to walk around and tell everyone to pull their mask up over their nose. They don't get the level of respect that they should. They try to be nice, and there's only so nice you can be after 7 hours of someone just blatantly disregarding what you're saying or being rude back to you in order to keep morale strong.
Part of that concern for me though is, their morale also depends on their management, and if management is MIA, it's one of the things that I noticed, and I'm pretty critical about this. When I was at the parks last time, I didn't see the management presence on stage I wanted to see, and it was really
same.
disappointing to me.
And the coordinators I've talked to have actually said that they're spread pretty thin. Like the management is spread very thin right now. Again, it comes down to staffing, and it was kind of funny. I saw a report someone posted and listen, this is one of those internet things that I will put the disclaimer up that there is probably no factuality to this statement, but I read the statement and laughed because it said.
Let me translate. What Brian's saying is, don't believe everything you see on Kenny the Pirate.
Yeah, there you go. But there was a post put up that someone had said Disney confirms they will be operating at 35% until into 2022. And I had to laugh. And someone said, well, they've been way over 35% for months. And I commented, I said, she wrote Disney's operating at 35%. They very well may have 35% of their normal staff right now.
Yeah.
So it could be a major staffing issue that is going on, that we know is going on. They may not be able to fill the positions the way they once were. I know some of these kids are getting hired for college programs and everything else. And when you talk to some of the interesting stats over the years of how many college program kids actually are working on a given day and how much of the park, especially in the afternoons and evenings, is run by college program, there's a huge percentage of staffing there at night, on the weekends, and everything else that is your college program kids. And
we're talking pre-pandemic as well. That
college
program and ICP.
Yeah, correct. Right? And I'm I'm definitely talking pre-pandemic.
Okay, perfect.
But now that they're bringing those college kids back, I think you're going to start to see some of that staffing issue get resolved. But at the same time, you'll have more bodies there. There's going to be a lot less experience. So you're going to have that issue where, maybe they can't answer your question to the level that you would like. Maybe they don't know the answer. Hopefully they're not still, you and I had talked about it a little, how the traditions classes are no longer 30 people, it's 300. They're holding the classes in auditoriums. So
right. They used to, for people who aren't aware, traditions classes used to be held in classrooms at Disney University, and many key activities took place during the day where you worked together with other people. You you sat at these round tables, usually 6 people to a table, and you got to learn about the people at your table, the people at other tables. You learned together. That whole teamwork makes the dream work mantra was hard at work during your first day of work at Disney, which was tradition. Now, as Brian said, it's happening due to social distancing and auditoriums, and it's really hard to create a personal touch when you've got a physical, this literal, not just figurative, this literal distance that you have to bridge. And unfortunately, that translates in the parks because you have this disconnect, you have this distance. And I still though, I have to say, the right managers out there make sure that their cast members know whether they're short or not. I'm here for you. I'm going to bat for you. Yeah, they're everybody is overworked, but if if I'm an hourly cast member and I feel like I'm either getting contradicting information or I'm not getting enough information to do my job, I don't know how long I'm going to want to stay and do my job.
Well, that's another thing that I've seen posted by a lot of people, and not this is not specific to Disney or Universal or theme parks or anything else, but this is in general in the workplace right now, that there are more people quitting jobs at a higher rate than ever before because people are being asked to do things that aren't their responsibility. I saw a post today. A friend of mine asked to come in and cover Thanksgiving after getting told that their vacation for Thanksgiving was approved. And then staffing, people left, quit. Now they've said your vacation is no longer approved. And, this person's bought plane tickets, bought everything, and was like, listen, I got permission. I did it right. I'm doing what I'm supposed to as a responsible worker. I show up for all my shifts, and now you're telling me I can't go on my vacation?
Yeah.
And the boss was like, nope, and don't plan on going on Christmas either. And he said, I've already bought all the stuff. He's like, I'm not going to be there for Thanksgiving. And the boss was like, well, and he's like, you know what? If this is how you're going to treat me and you're going to vilify me for doing the right thing because someone else quit for you, I quit. And he left. So now this employer loses a good employee.
Yep.
And a crap employee.
And what happens because of things like that, two things are at play here. First of all, the corporate entity probably has no idea things like that are happening. When people leave a job, people will work the crappiest jobs in the world if they're surrounded by the greatest people and they've got an amazing management team behind them. People
if I
leave
hear
jobs,
thank you, I'll work anywhere.
Yeah, people leave jobs because of people. People leave because of crappy people, crappy treatment, bad management, poor judgment exhibited by management, and an obvious predisposition to just making it clear that you don't care for the people that are sacrificing to show up. And it's happening with alarming frequency. I think for whatever reason, whatever's happened with the pandemic has caused people to say, hey, let's take a look at what I can do that's best for me. That's why you've got this booming gig economy. And I wonder though, what's going to happen. I think another part, going back to the talk about the Imagineering campus being relocated to Florida from California, there are cultural differences between the two locations. And even though they all work together, I can't help but wonder if Joe Rohde
You froze up there.
walling and said, I know, I saw that. It was kind of creepy. was like,
Repeat
anyway,
that again. So you don't know if Joe what now?
I wonder if Joe Rohde didn't somehow see the writing on the wall and know to retire when he retired, because he being the senior Imagineer when he was with Imagineering in California,
He was
he would have been
probably, I
subject to that
mean,
same
to be
relocation.
honest, he was high enough up and at the level where he was probably aware of it. I would not be surprised if he
Yeah,
had been part of that conversation with it even being introduced. I wouldn't be surprised if he had been part of that conversation. And again, we do not speak for the company. We do not know
right.
anything for fact. This is hypothetical conversation, and
Just
we are
two
just
guys talking.
yeah, exactly. But I will say the other dynamic issue, with a California to Florida move is, I mean, the political change in the state is drastic.
Yep.
The taxation is drastic. The climate is a drastic change. There's a million reasons where you could say, no, I don't want to move from California to Florida. And it's just, I think it's a great thing for the Florida economy. I think it's a great thing to have more things in the area of Disney World where that is the bigger, more intense park location, everything. I mean, if you've ever gone to Disneyland, Disneyland is much like Universal Studios in the fact it's a very compact footprint, very
Landlocked.
small. What's that?
It's landlocked, really, for lack of a better expression. It's closed in. It doesn't have the thing that Walt and Roy knew they wanted, which is tons of land to expand.
Yeah, correct. I mean, it's really, and I mean, the craziest thing to me at Disneyland is that you literally get it. It'd be like pulling off I-4, and in 3 seconds you're in the hotel.
Right.
I mean, it's so off the exit. It's literally at the end of an off ramp, and
Yeah. No,
you're there. And
that's why that's why we talked about that's why the Magic Kingdom is Walt's weenie. That's why it's located where it is, at the northern part of the property. You got to drive through a lot of land to get there.
yeah, but I do like the fact that Disneyland doesn't have a TTC. I gotta be honest there, because the TTC, we learned quickly that we will not park at the TTC. We will find ways to park anywhere else. I will pay to park. I mean, when you stay on property, you don't get charged to park to go into the TTC or to any of the theme parks. You do get charged at the hotel for your overnight if you're staying at the hotel. But if you're a resort guest, you are allowed to park in the parking lots at the theme parks for free. However, if you want to park up front and pay the preferred parking, I think it's like an extra $25 or $30. It might have gone up a little. Used to be 25. Right. You could add to it. I found at the hotels you can pay $34, and back when they had Tables of Wonderland, you could actually get that comped as long as you had a receipt from a restaurant at the hotel, and you could go in and buy a $3 soda at the bar and then present that receipt to the valet, and it got you free valet. So basically, I went in and parked for a $3 soda every time and parked for free at the hotel. That being said, there were times when Tables of Wonderland ran out, we still paid to valet. I'd rather pay the $34 and be at the Polynesian or the Contemporary or the Grand Floridian and just take a boat, walk through the lobby, and have my car brought up. Yep. There's no, what section are we in? It's just, they take care of it. If it was raining or the weather was questionable, you're standing undercover at the lobby. The perks were just worth it to me. And, that's something we've always done. It's stricter now since COVID on whether or not they let you into the hotels. They are much stricter. You have to show a reservation. You have to show,
Right.
and I've even heard they do and have towed cars that are longer than 3 hours there after being there for a reservation. I don't know how often that happens, because personally, I might have stayed a whole day or two at a park with my car parked there. But, that's off the record.
Well, it's okay. I mean, nobody's watching anyway, so
What's that?
it's okay. Nobody's watching
So
anyway.
yeah, Disney's like, yeah, one guy's parking now. We can handle that. One guy. But it's it is interesting, the discord that I feel is kind of occurring right now within aspects of the company, that it's not harmonious.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Going back to Imagineering, what does the Disney theme park footprint look like without Imagineering? What happens if over the course of the next several years, those who decide, yeah, I want to stay with the company long enough to get my vested interest, get my pension, whatever, because I think they have 90 days, if I remember correctly, they have 90 days to say yes or no.
Yeah.
And many of them are waiting. I guess there are bonuses that happen with the turn of the calendar year. But what happens if in 3 years, 5 years, Imagineering is a ghost of its former self?
Well, so here's what's funny, and it's funny you say that, because there are some things starting to happen that are going to be very interesting over the next few years. Because, as you well know, Imagineers have involved themselves in more than just Disney's design. Some of the greatest Disney minds did have things to do with Universal or with other parks. I know, for example, Knott's Berry Farm, if you've ever been out there in California, there is a mine ride that you take a train through a mine and you explore everything. And they also have the flume that is part of all that as well. And both those experiences were designed by Disney Imagineers, and worked on with Disney Cruise. So with Universal having a new park that's obviously been designed, like it's obviously, they've broken ground and they've started building. I don't think there's a lot of dream work coming up on it, but there will be things that need to be finalized, touches done. There will obviously be some work for Imagineers in the opportunity to go into new design. What I start to wonder is, Epcot's under construction, so obviously that has all been designed. It's being implemented. But does Disney do anything with the ability? I know right now that they just purchased the land, or squared away the land, not purchased, they already owned it, but squared away the land and zoned it for some changes that is between the Floridian and the Polynesian resort. There's talk that there may be another resort coming in. They're not sure. That nothing's been officially announced. They're going to have opportunities to work. But as far as the climate of Imagineering as a whole, I sadly think that is part of a business that with the current direction is just not going to be a focus. And you're going to see more and more people that do kind of pull back from that. I think the corporate mindset is really becoming more of a thing, and I have a funny feeling it's actually going to bite Disney more
Right,
than it's going to bless them.
right. When I was in the parks before I left for resorts, I was walking. I was at Epcot, and I struck up a conversation with a family. I was helping them find their way, and it turned out it was kind of fun. The guy had the passion for Disney and the love of Disney that you do, that I do, but he'd also been paying attention, and he wasn't he wasn't complaining or kvetching. He was just simply literally going through this point by point list of things that he had noticed over the course of just the past few years. Um, Corners that were cut, and like you, he had built relationships with cast members. He knew a few Imagineers, and he had said to me something that I already knew, which is almost every single attraction, land, area, anything that gets built, corners are cut. Corners are always cut. And his concern to me was, if they keep cutting corners, this place is going to become a high price Six Flags. And I when he said that, I went, wow. I I asked him to talk more about it while I sat there and processed what that looked like, because I can't imagine a thing that would drive guests away from Disney quicker than the fact that they felt like they were showing up, showing kind of like what's happening now for some people. I'm spending the same amount of money pre-pandemic. I'm getting less.
You're spending more.
Yeah,
The costs have actually gone up.
I know.
So I mean, when you take into consideration, Disneyland upped its prices this week. Parking went
Mhm.
up for the first time in 20 years. I think they said. It was kind of crazy to me that it was that long, but if it was, it was. They had they went from $25 to $30. $5 increase. Now, someone said that at Disneyland, the town of Anaheim gets the parking revenue and Disney only gets like $4 on it. I don't know if there's truth to that or not. If they're city-owned garages, I don't know, to be honest.
I'm sure that's easy enough to find out, though. Right?
But the ticket price went up to, I think, $164 a day for the base ticket for the parks. And then,
Oh my gosh.
you add now for like a park. I think that's with a park hopper. But it may not be. Disney World now with the park hopper is like $209. It's not cheap. And then add on, if you want Genie, that's another $15 a ticket. You want to ride Rise of the Resistance, that's another $15. So you had $30 to $209. You're at $239. You're almost $250 just to walk in and ride your rides. And when you start figuring that out, if you ride 5 rides a day, like there's some people I know that only do 3 rides, 4 rides, maybe 5, because they just want to ride the most popular stuff. You do 5 rides a day, you're paying $50 a ride. Like that's unfortunately the bean counter. The Bob Chapek in me likes to analyze the cost I have. And then when I start to look at what I spend per ride or whatever else, it gets scary. Now, Tegan and I, with the old Fast Pass system, we had days where we saw 30 Fast Passes. We would use 30 Fast Passes. As soon as I scanned through, I had the app open. I would grab the closest ride, closest to the ride we were on, and grab another Fast Pass. And then I'd go to that ride, and as soon as we scanned in, I'd grab something else. Now, sometimes those waits would only be 20 minutes to begin with, and you're getting in 5. So some of it is not, it wasn't all Flight of Passage or Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, because those aren't easy Fast Passes to get. Sometimes it was a Fast Pass for Dumbo. Sometimes it was a Fast Pass for Aladdin, the magic carpets. It wasn't all high request rides. but we had days where we did 30 plus fast passes and rode 40 rides in a day. Now, this was also when hours were from 9 in the morning till midnight, and you don't see those hours now. And one of the knocks that I think people have a legitimate complaint about is there are morning people and there are night people that go to Disney. It's usually one or the other. Most people in Central Florida try to avoid the parks in the heat of the afternoon. So you either go in the morning and you split early, or you go back after 4, and that's when you make your day and you spend the night there.
Right.
That opportunity doesn't exist right now. You basically have to go in the morning. You might take a break. A lot of people don't now, though, because the parks are closing so much earlier.
Yep.
So when you have that limited time window, but I'm still paying more money, there's limited staffing, so the lines aren't moving as smoothly or as quickly. The quick service is anything but at the parks right now. The biggest knock I've heard on mobile order and quick service, they just don't have the staff. And so you're waiting a half hour, 40 minutes, an hour for quick service food. That kind of defeats the purpose of quick service.
I agree. I was pleased and impressed that in Epcot for Food and Wine, they actually had several kiosks out. I don't know. I didn't really pay attention to see if there were as many as they had pre-pandemic, but it was nice to see that there was a robust enough amount of them that you could walk up to anyone. I think the longest period of time, I might have waited anywhere was maybe 5 minutes. So I didn't go to any full serve sit down restaurants. Chose to instead hit all of these little kiosks and pockets in the different countries and in future worlds. But no, you're right. At the resorts, even at the resorts, it's crazy. But yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it getting better either, especially now that we're almost a month into the 50th.
Well, I think so. I've seen a lot of people posting, their frustration with lack of availability. Dining is still a nightmare. I don't think dining is booking anywhere close to 100% capacity at restaurants because, again, we don't have the staff. So, people are complaining they can't get reservations at their 60-day mark because everything's already booked. But if you're only booking at 50% of your floor plan, because that's all management can guarantee they're going to have the staffing for, you're running into problems where you're going to have a very tough time fulfilling your customer base and fulfilling that need, and you're building frustration. And listen, I get it. There's supply chain issues going on right now. So the people frustrated that they can't get their iridescent Spirit jerseys that were supposed to be out on October 1st because they're sitting on a boat in LA Harbor that hasn't even docked yet. So there's frustrations in other places, but the total package meshed together is just creating a level of frustration that is really and somewhat justly so aggravating the average family vacationer, because my parents were complaining today. They're not even going to Disney, not even theme park related. They're trying to fly to Florida to start their snowbirds. So they're going to fly. and next week, they're ready to fly to Florida and start their winter in Florida. And JetBlue, they booked a mid-afternoon flight because they like to take their time getting to the airport from New Hampshire, take their time, take a bus, relax, get to Boston, have a little lunch, go in. Right. They don't even come visit me. They just fly straight to Florida. They're like, skip seeing the sun, but that's okay. They get the sun in Florida. So they're shooting down, and they had this great plan to do their relaxing day. JetBlue changed their flight because they're consolidating flights, because they're not selling out flights still. And so now they've got a flight that's 4 hours earlier. They can't enjoy their day. They're struggling to find a bus that's leaving early enough to get them there comfortably. And they're like, it's just stressing us out. So that's a simple thing that is already stressing someone out before they're getting to a destination. Now you're showing up at the rental car counter and they don't have enough cars for everybody, and you reserve this nice minivan and they want to give you a Ford Mustang because it's all they have left. Like there's issue after issue that is hiccuping people right now in their travels. And when I had a client the other day, checked into Pop Century, tried to, rooms are supposed to be ready at 3, didn't get into a room till 8:30. That's frustrating, and it's a valid frustration.
Yes,
now, Disney does their best to take care of you, but it doesn't matter when you're sitting there with luggage, with nothing to do, because you planned on being in your room and relaxing the night before you go to the park.
We talked about this. We talked about this on a show a few episodes back. I told you I was absolutely floored when I went to meet extended family and we all stayed at Shades of Green. I was floored because it reminded me, you know, I've heard people often say pre-pandemic that the experience and service you get on the Disney Cruise Line is analogous to what it was like being in the parks 20 or 25 years prior. And that's in some ways, it's what it feels like at Shades of Green. Man, they're on their game. They're on top of it. And you know, for those of you who aren't familiar about the resort we're talking about, Shades of Green is actually a military base, a military installation for the armed branches, and it's incredible. It's a beautiful facility. Great restaurants and bars, and I mean, if you're in the military and you're going to Disney, you're doing yourself a huge disservice by not looking at staying at Shades of Green. They'll even, this is a cool thing, the tiered price to stay per night is based on your ranking in the military in whatever branch of the armed forces you're in.
Yeah,
it just floored me. It blew me away. And you know, if they had staffing issues, they didn't show it, but everybody out there was greeting you with a smile and just bending over backwards to make sure that your experience was complete.
And I do want to take a minute just to be clear that even though I'm speaking on things that are not the norm for Disney pre-pandemic, you know, we still, when we were there in August, I personally had no issues. Like people I was with had a couple issues, but we didn't really, you know, I saw stuff, and this is what I try to explain people. I've been to Disney over 25 times. So I've been there enough before the pandemic that you do have a mindset. But if you've never been to Disney, you are still going to be floored with Disney.
Sure.
Like if you go in right now, you're going to be like, wow, this was expensive, but holy crap, this is some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen. You know, if you saw Harmonious for your first Disney show ever, or Enchantment for your first Disney fireworks and projection show, you're not going to say, it's not Happily Ever After. You're going to be like, wow, that was awesome. You know, that is the wow factor of Disney. When you develop the emotional connection or that spiritual connection or just the familiarity of being there and seeing things a certain way, when they change, just like in your home life or at work, people generally don't adapt well to sudden change. And it's very hard. So people are complaining. People are saying, this stinks. I don't really like it. But yet I saw the reports of, like I have friends that were there this week. I have a couple clients that were there, and I asked them their opinion on the Genie, and they were like, Genie's great. Like, I'm getting the times for the rides. I can go right over. It's all super easy. The only thing I personally don't like about the Genie is you're only allowed to use a fast pass once on each ride per day, which for the other guests is understandable, and I get it. But I miss the fact that, like, when I used a fast pass on Space Mountain pre-pandemic, I could look on the app, and if there was another one for Space Mountain, I could hit Space Mountain again. And Tegan and I love Space Mountain, so we might go on Space Mountain 4 or 5 times a day. Now with the Genie, I'm paying $15. Yeah, you could do every ride in the park, but we might only have 3 that we really want to ride just over and over again because those are our favorite rides. And I understand why they did it. I'm not sure I'd pay $15 to just be able to ride things once. And I guess from what I'm not even sure of this yet. Someone told me you have to have Genie to do the Lightning Lane, and I didn't think you did. I thought you could just order a Lightning Lane if you wanted to and pay your $15 for like Rise of the Resistance. I didn't think I had to also pay the $15 to get Genie Plus in order to get
the last I'd read and the last I understood by talking to cast members is the two are supposed to be separate. They don't.
Okay.
They don't.
That's what I thought.
Yep. It could be different. There's a lot changing, and I know they're trying to find their way. Same for Universal. I become concerned when any organization that is known for presenting a certain level, this certain height, they start doing things which clearly are with an eye towards the bottom line. I don't know what things are going to look like when the dust settles, but I guess we'll all find out.
Well, I think what's going to be funny, and I've said this to you before, and I really truly feel this, is I really feel as though Disney took the outlook that with the 50th, they have carte blanche to do whatever they want. So if there was ever a time to throw the wet noodle against the wall and see if it sticks, they just cooked a whole box of spaghetti and they are whaling noodles like they're at an Italian restaurant. They're just throwing everything they can at the wall right now. Whatever doesn't stick, I think they will wean out. But this is like the perfect money-making storm for Disney, that they said, hey, you know what? We're going to have our core fan base that we're going to be able to sell merch. I mean, they're selling $50 Starbucks cups. I mean, come on, cut me a break. They're probably paying $6 for those things coming out of China. So, the markup on stuff is crazy. They are seizing the opportunity to make money because the 50th is a huge marketability to the company in its entirety. And they want to make up those losses. And if Bob Chapek manages to make up the losses for all the crap that everyone is giving him, if shareholders see everything on track at the end of 18 months and they've made up for their COVID losses, and at the end of 18 months, they're where they would have been in their mindset pre-pandemic, that dude's getting a raise and a bonus and an extension. And now I don't think that's going to happen at all, but I'm just saying his mindset.
For something like that to happen, they need another Disney Plus.
Oh, I agree, but and Disney Plus is starting to suddenly throw some wrenches at them because they're not producing as fast as the fans are clamoring for, and people are leaving. They're losing, they had people hooked with The Mandalorian. You can't skip a season and then expect people to stick around. And they're finding that out because they decided to push with Boba Fett and the other stuff. And they're trying to hook people in, and it kind of backfired on them, and they're losing a percentage of their base. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out for them. But I think Bob Chapek still has the opportunity to come out in Disney's eyes looking fantastic. I just don't think he's on the right. I don't think he's the right person for the job. I think Josh D'Amaro would have been a much better, CEO a couple of years from now. I wish that, like Iger would have just stayed. I liked Iger.
Everybody liked Iger. He was good for the company. He was good for the shareholders. He was good for anyone that was a stakeholder in the organization. And I think, I'm also curious if Bob Chapek isn't suffering a little bit from thumbprint syndrome. I'm going to come in and I'm going to change some things, and I'm going to put my thumbprint on it and show you that I know a thing or two about running a global conglomerate. I think people who feel so invested in Disney and get disappointed, especially with things like rising prices and less in the way of offerings, I think when they defect, I think it's permanent for some of those people, because it feels like a divorce. It feels like a breakup with your high school sweetheart.
But the one thing I've realized, and this is kind of a sad statement to make, but people complained for years and years how big the crowds were getting, how crazy it was getting. Careful what you wish for, because all those complaints, how do you fix it? You up the price, you make it more elite, and then the people that have money don't care, because the crowds will start to go down. They'll see a better experience, so they will pay more. And there is a level of wealth that is coming into Disney that will stay there, and they will feel taken care of, and they will do their stuff. The other side of
that's not including park buyouts and partial buyouts.
Oh, correct. And then on the other side of that, and I tried to explain this to another friend too, that Disney knows the average person has about a 10 to 12 year window of Disney. And then they're going to either outgrow it. And this is true, just saying, for the average person, not for the Disney fan, but for the average family that has the little kids that they want to go see the castle. They want to have them experience. The kids are like, wow, holy crap, let's go here every year. And, at the most, you might get 12 vacations out of that, 12 years. But there will always be the next generation of parents that want to bring their kids to Disney that are still going to bring them. So unfortunately, the people that feel like they're the core of Disney, the people that buy the annual passes, the people that are in there once a week, that go to dinner, they're not the people that Disney targets, because the dollar for dollar range of what they bring to the table, even if they go all the time, still doesn't compare with a family of four coming down and spending 10, 20 grand. Like if you do the per head numbers. And unfortunately, Chapek's made it clear that his focus is that family of four that's coming from out of state. And pass holders are feeling a little jaded because they can't make the reservations. It's not like you can just jump in the car and go to the park now. You have to have your park reservation. You have to have it planned. So the structure is very frustrating to those fans that are the diehard bunch. They're even more alienated right now. So, and they're the voice in every Disney group, in every Facebook page, on all those things. Those are the voices that are speaking up right now. So even though the bulk of people I've asked 10 of my friends what they thought of everything going on at Disney, and they're like, what are you talking about? They don't even know, because they go
Right.
to Disney for their once a year vacation, and
Mm-hmm.
then they forget about
Right.
Disney. They don't care.
That's
They're just
right.
like, how much do I owe you? Here's my credit card. Just make it all happen. I don't really care.
Yep.
They're not the planners and getting into everything and everything else. And
But I,
that's
I just wanted to quickly bring up one thing. Where Disneyland is a locals park of sorts.
yeah.
The Walt Disney World Resort is more international. It still depends on a certain percentage of regular traffic, people who have annual passes, people who come to visit on a regular basis. And I think if Disney unintentionally weans those people or weeds them out, I wonder what sustainability looks like for park operations.
Well, here's another interesting kick. What happens in November when international travel resumes?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to get that whole push that came from Americans finally able to vacation, that we're going to Disney, and Disney saw very busy times during what is traditionally fairly slow. What's going to happen when all these international people are trying to get over here for the 50th too? You think availability is tough right now? Give it a month. They open those doors, those floodgates are gonna fly. Frank, I agree with you that it is getting a little too structured, but I'm on my phone the entire time. I'm not gonna lie. I'm constantly on my phone at Disney. I'll be honest. Mostly because I take like 2,000 pictures. Ask Tegan, she'll tell you. I'm a big photo guy. See, with this face, how could you not be? But I'm anxious to see, what are your thoughts on the Imagineers? Do you think that they have valid points? How do you think? Like I said, I think they should have been given the option to be able to stay and work and travel on occasion or whatever else. It's not like Disney doesn't have the money to put them on a plane.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'd love to know what people think about what this means. I think you need to at least present a face that you're happy at Disney, right? It's not like the DMV,
right?
But if the Imagineers aren't happy with the idea of having to move across the country, if cast members aren't happy having to come into work where they're already overworked and maybe they're being forced into overtime, eventually I think Disney's going to feel that with its high affinity guests who are going to say, "Why am I spending money on this? If I'm wanting to buy filet mignon and you're serving me a Checkers burger. I don't see how the two connect."
Yeah, I don't know. I'm anxious to see what happens for sure. I don't think, like your question earlier was, how do you see Disney changing? And I think at this point, all the changes they have for the foreseeable future, and I understand Disney by nature is a constant evolution. I get that. But I think the changes that they have for the immediate future and on the next couple of years are all kind of written and done. So I think,
that's true. That's true. Probably the next 3 to 5 years, that stuff, there's capital planning already in place. But I personally, this is just Ron speaking, I think Disney is not Disney without its Imagineers, without that,
100%.
that brain trust.
But do you think, I think they're looking at short-term gains right now instead of long-term effect. And
And that's
I think
that's kind of that's dangerous because, in my
I
opinion,
agree.
Disney's always been a long haul player. They've always looked down the road. They've always had vision. And you're right. Right now, it's let's stop and pick up the pennies instead of paying attention to the dollars that are down the road.
But what I think's going to happen is I think as the 50th winds down and they realize that the demand is just not there. I think they're going to get a false sense of demand because of the 50th. They're going to drop, like they're going to shuffle their feet a little bit and not be proactive enough thinking down the road. And I think you're going to see like 2023, they're going to start to panic because Universal is going to be about to open a new park in 2025. And
Yep.
Disney's going to honestly, I'm saying right now, Disney's essentially going to get caught with their pants down. They're going to have that moment where they're like, oh crap, what do we do? I really feel like there is not enough going into their future and figuring it out. They seem to be, they're making the alterations to their past that they don't want to be associated with anymore, with a much of the country, trying to pander to getting things changed and socially acceptable and everything else, some of which I agree with, some of which I think has been taken too far. And again, not trying to get political or anything else, but there's just a level of, they're cartoon characters, or there's certain things that I'm like, really, you have to make this political, like, get over it. It's a silly story. But I think when that new park comes for Universal, and given where Universal has kind of stepped itself up to, I mean, they're never going to be the massive size of Disney. They're never going to have the level that Disney did or does, but they're going to become a lot closer. It's going to be a lot closer. I mean, you're down to a 2-park difference when this new park opens, so essentially It's like Animal Kingdom and Blizzard Beach is what, Universal's missing. And if they ever built a zoo or any kind of like park with an animal-based theme, they have now rivaled Disney.
Right. But your point also, going back to the Imagineers for a moment. When there was that massive dump, when Disney cleaned house, cleared out a bunch of Imagineers, I think it was 98 or 99. They whenever it was, they literally went down the street and helped build Islands of Adventure.
Right.
You walk through Islands of Adventure, that's why you see that really incredible, that infinitesimal detail. That's why I think I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing happened. You get more Imagineers who
that new
get
park on the
relocated.
horizon.
Yep, I agree. I think
they've got the feeling that
I think this would just be the first thing. I think the Imagineers, those that begrudgingly decide to move to Lake Nona because they love what they do, I think there's going to be other things that are going to continue to take away from their ability, their creative autonomy.
Well, I think collectively in the country right now, like what we were talking about before, is there's a corporate mindset that, like, oh, well, people needed these jobs and they're going to come to work when, the money runs out, and we're going to be able to hire whatever we need because there's going to be a level of desperation. And the country kind of showed, you know what? F you. If anything, I learned over the pandemic, it's that I need to make enough money to take care of my family so that if something like this happens again, I have a little extra in the bank. So people have demanded a little more. They're not going to put up with the politics of it anymore. And they know there's 11 million jobs out there that they can go find and choose from that actually empowers the employee. And now you have these companies that are.
If you don't think it's an employee's market right now, take a look at all the companies that are posting listings with bonuses, signing bonuses. I mean,
yeah,
it's the most
McDonald's
amazing thing in the world.
$1,000 and they'll pay for your college to go flip burgers and fries. Like, I mean, it's. I almost took a job today, and I may go to work for a friend of mine to help him out. It's not good money, but I told Tegan how much an hour it was. She goes, Dad, you can make more than that at McDonald's. And I'm like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong right now. Right. And I think one of the things that's, there's companies that are trying to mandate so much of their employees right now. And I'm not talking vaccine mandates. I'm talking just mandating, you've got to move to Lake Nona. We're moving the company.
I don't recall if, one of the big things I'm sure people who've noticed, if you've been paying any attention at all, is the bus driver shortage for schools. And when you find out how much they get paid and that basically their time is captive, even in the middle of the day, some of them live so far from home, they're not getting paid, but they can't drive home. It's just not practical. That's why these folks are taking jobs at FedEx, at UPS, at Amazon, DHL. They're being snapped up.
Well, I interviewed with an Amazon driving job this week. I went to an interview, and all their jobs are subcontracted. They have third-party owners that subcontract. And the guy that was talking to me was the rudest, most self-centered guy I've ever heard speak at an interview. And there were 10 of us in the group. They did like mass interviews. And they were basically, even when we got the time, like your interview will be at 10 a.m. at this address.
Right.
And then at the bottom it said, feel free to bring family and friends. Like, I mean, I was like, nice. Seriously? So they're so desperate for help. But we walked in and this guy literally looked at all 10 of us and said, and just so you know, time is money. So you need to be here at exactly this time. You have to be here doing exactly this. This is the schedule. And I don't allow people to call out sick. And I said, what? And I said, if my daughter has an emergency at school, I'm going to be calling out. Like, this is family first, buddy. And he goes, well, I don't allow it, so you'll be fired. And I said, I won't be fired. And he said, oh, I will fire you. And I said, no, I won't be fired. I said, you will never fire me because I'll never go to work for you. Because with that attitude, one, it's illegal. And two, who's going to work for you when you tell people that in an interview? I'm like, you sound like, I'm like, you just come off sounding like a condescending ass. And I got up and I left. And then 7 more people got up and left behind me. And they got out and they were like, I was just waiting for someone to have the balls to tell that dude what he was, saying. And I was just like, this is crazy though. And this is to your effect, to your point earlier, this is kind of what happens to cast members on occasion. And you want them to have a great attitude. But if 6 people call out for the night shift, they get held over. It's not optional. They get told by somebody, hey, you're working till close now. Your shift's till close now. These kids, like some of these kids aren't given options. And when you're forced to stay and you're on day 5 of your 13-hour days because they can't stay, where do you think your morale is? If you want to talk about being kind to people and being magical, if you encounter nothing but rude, impatient, entitled people all day that tell you how bad their life is because they can't enjoy a ride because it's closed because of lightning. How many times can you smile and say, well, we're doing the best we can? When do you finally want to turn around? This is why I could probably never work for Disney, because I'd be the sarcastic SOB that would be
Well, no,
like,
you learn.
wait, let me bring you right up right now. As soon as the ride turns on, I don't want you to lose any more of your $10,000.
No, you just what you do is you say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Have a magical day."
Yeah, yeah. I hope your day is really magical. Magic. Magic.
Ah,
But anyway, so I'm anxious to see what happens with the Imagineers, because I agree with you. They're such an integral part of Disney that if Disney loses its creative vision, even at 20% or 30% of what it's been
you're gonna feel
over
it,
the
and people are gonna
it's
notice.
upscale Six Flags. I love that. It's spot on. You know, it's going to be an expensive Six Flags. It's like 12 flags.
And I don't think, I don't think, I know Disney doesn't want that because anybody who knows the company, anyone with a long enough corporate memory remembers when they were the subject, the object of an attempted hostile takeover, and the individuals who were engaged in that absolutely did not hide the fact. We want to acquire the company and then piece it out. We're gonna we're gonna section this out and sell it. We're gonna section this out and sell it. And that becomes my concern again. If Disney's quality drops to a point where they start looking at, wait a minute, we outsource housekeeping, or we outsource custodial, or we whatever it is they outsource. Maybe we should outsource operations for the entire park.
That is dangerous, because I mean they've already had to do that somewhat. I mean, people talk about just the bus service, that was a contract with Mears, and now that is going to be officially a subcontracted thing, and people felt as though that was a Disney experience before, but now they're riding standard buses to and from the airport, and people complain.
Yep.
They're like, it doesn't feel, it's not the Magical Express, it's just a bus. And that takes away from that experience. I understand why they did it. I understand the contract. I get it. But at the same, and I understand insurances, fuel costs, everything that all goes into factor. And now, it costs $7,483 to fill up a bus. So, it gets expensive. But people's frustration, like we were saying earlier, even though a lot of the things are little, when you take 10 little things and they all become noticeable, it becomes the equivalent of one pretty big thing.
You're right. And, I think also, you can have all of these little straws that add up. And then sometimes it can be one little thing, like, for people not being able to get free refills for their drinks. I mean, I was amazed at the number of people I spoke to who had lost their mind, and they're like, I'm not staying at the Disney Resort ever again for that reason. I mean, the fact that they were used to that and expected it, and it had changed for whatever the reasons were. Again, you get it. It's a cost analysis thing, but you always, I think, as a company, you have to do that beautiful balance of constantly innovating and bringing more things to the forefront so you can bring more people in versus alienating the people who support your bottom line. And I think Disney is unique to many companies in the entertainment industry because it's multi-generational. You have families who bring their kids because, like, when I was your age walking up Main Street for the first time, I was like, take a smell. ooh, I can smell it. It's like fudge or something. Yeah, I remember that. That multi-generational thing, if Disney
Yeah.
loses that, I think that's a hole too big in the ship to plug. So I hope they're paying attention.
Well, and that's what worries me a bit too is just for the 50th, they took on so much to try to change and fulfill. I mean, you're talking 3 shows that were changed in the three major parks. You were
Yep.
talking, pre-pandemic, you were talking five new rides, that were all supposed to be within a 2-year span. Just everything being done and not really being able to fulfill things the way they wanted. The reconstruction of Epcot, all the changes that were going on inner park there, and the hope of having it all done, they took a huge risk, and the pandemic did definitely shoot everyone in the foot across the board. I mean, I don't
Hmm.
I don't fault Disney for what had to happen with the pandemic. And then instead of being able to focus on construction of the stuff for the 50th, they had to install all the safety barriers and all the sinks and all the hand wash stations and adjust all the restaurants and put up all the plexi. I mean, I would love to know the amount of money they spent on plexiglass in 2020. You know,
Right.
the numbers are mind-boggling, but they still managed to do it all, and I give them credit. They got open, they got things done. What makes me fearful, however, is, I'm having the conversation with my 14-year-old right now. Are you biting off more than you can chew? And how's it going to affect your quality of life? And did Disney bite off more than it can chew? And is it affecting their quality of their experience for the fan? Do you want to pay full price to go? Should Epcot be a half price park right now? Should you drop your ticket? Should you, if half the park's available, should there be some kind of break there? Should there be cost factor breaks into the consideration that you used to be open 13 to 15 hours a day? Now you're open 8 to 10. Like, should there be cost factor breaks in that? Because it's a arguable concept, but they are still in the mindset that if people pay it, who cares? And that's
Right.
kind of how it feels. So whether you like it or not, whether you're a Disney apologist or not, Disney just seems to feel like as long as people are paying it, we don't really care.
Great
They
point.
would drop prices if people stopped coming.
Yeah, and I think for now, there's enough momentum that nobody's going to come forward. I don't I don't recall a time in my memory where someone at Disney came forward and said, "You know what? We screwed up. We made a mistake." So I think if the changes that are happening in an
First,
attempt to
first
bring
time
in
for
the high
everything.
affinity people, yeah, yeah, it's a good point. Uh, I guess we'll see. We'll see as things progress, right?
I agree with you. I really feel like international travel is going to save them right at the point where I feel like they would start to feel it a little bit, because I feel like right after Christmas, you would have started to feel the hit a little bit with the 50th, because I think you would have seen some interest wane. I understand hotels are booked. I understand the Star Cruiser hotel is selling out at that incredible price. Um, you know,
Yep.
it is filling up, and they're booking it. I understand Disney Cruise is coming back and
Yep.
rebuilding to the point where, boats are sailing regularly. They're back on a cruise. They're hitting occupancy numbers for what they can do. Um, but I think, there would have been a little bit of lull after the 50th, after the holidays. But now if international travel comes back, they're going to be banging out international travel like it's that's going to probably fill up. I would say that would give you a year to 18 months.
That requires, I think, one big thing, and that is that you've got enough people internationally across the world that want to come to Disney's 50th. The hype that happens in this country, I mean, sure, it happens in other countries, but remember, some parts of Western Europe have a love-hate relationship with um, Disneyland Paris, right? Is that what I was about to call it? Euro Disney, but I know it hasn't been that in years. They don't, people don't feel in many parts of the world about Disney the way Americans do. So
most people I know that really want to go to a Disney park, though, want to come to Disney World. They want to come to Florida because it is even though it's not the original, it's the quintessential, huge, massive, the biggest and the best. Right. And, I think Disney is going to be okay with doing what they're doing. I just hope they back some of it off and have some understanding, because they really are pricing people out, myself included. I'll be the first to admit it. We're paying half the money to have a similar, it's not the same experience, but a similar experience at Universal for half the cost of a Disney vacation is pretty attractive. And what they offer, their pass holder rates, I mean, Disney takes a few bucks off, but I'm staying at deluxe resorts at Universal for what I'm paying for a room at Pop Century.
Yeah.
At Disney.
And as you've mentioned in previous episodes, Universal's guest service and forward-facing efforts by their team members, they've really upped their game.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, listen, we love Disney and we will be back to Disney. I have, no doubt. But do we go back for a day to experience the new rides? Do we go back for a weekend? The days of our 10-day trips to Disney are just gone. There's, right. I mean, I'm already in debt. I'd be like, I mean, I'm going to need a Build Back Better bill to pass if I'm going to get, I need my 3.5 trillion so I can keep taking Disney vacations, because without it, I can't afford it. So, talk to your senator about the Bring Brian Back Better. That's my new bill. Talk to your senator, please help me out. And Frank, Ron is clear and pretty because he is handsome and a stuntman and actor and all that beautiful stuff. And I am just a middle-aged fat dude in the middle of a nor'easter in Boston. So I think it's the weather that is affecting us tonight, because we have that really bad storm with bombogenesis occurring.
I'm clear and pretty, huh?
You look handsome, my friend. You're looking quite dapper this evening. At first, I wasn't sure if you were one of the Dapper Dans coming on with the nice collared shirt and, the whole bit. I was waiting for the hat. I just have my Hakuna no dollar. Hakuna no dollar. It means no money for the rest of my stay.
Hakuna no dollar.
Yeah, it literally says that too. It says it means no money for the rest of your stay.
Means no money for the rest of your stay. It's not a problem free.
Oh, it's a problem creator. That's it's not interest free either. But anyway, All right, we cranked a long one tonight. We managed to chat about a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah. We do that every week. You're welcome.
Yeah, it's a good thing. But Frank, thank you for joining us again. Jen, thank you for joining us, our dedicated followers. And
thank you very much.
We will be back next week. And I'm actually going to try to advertise for next week and maybe make a video or something. And said that, Ron, where'd you go? You disappeared. Ron just vacated. But we're gonna call it a night. And thank you for joining us. I'm gonna scroll down here, and then I'm gonna press a button, and we are gonna say, peace out. So, on behalf of Ron, thank you, and we'll see you guys real soon. Oh, hold on, Ron's back. Ron vacated momentarily, but
what happened?
You hung up on me.
No, you just disappeared.
No, you hung up on me. It was kind of like an ex-wife moment.
I didn't touch anything. You literally disappeared. I literally looked down to find our closing music, and oh my gosh, I was blown. I didn't see that coming at all, man.
I'm claiming Bombo Genesis. All right, guys. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next time.